Hey, everybody, how you doing? Well, that's good. Welcome to PHLY Flyers, presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. My name's Bill Matz. I'm your director of fun and games for the evening. Joining me today, jam-packed Friday show and a full panel. We've got Philadelphia's #1 hockey beat reporter, Charlie O'Connor, as well as Broad Street Hockey's own Kelly Hinkle. I don't know about you guys. I'm still buzzing a little bit. Scott Laughton, a 4-goal game. First guy to do it for the Flyers since John LeClair 22 years ago.
That's wild.
Absolutely insane. We showed the graphic last night. There's like a Yuri Dopita in there, and that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it was 2 John LeClair 4-goal games that sandwich the Yuri Dopita one great game.
But it's like a bunch of LeClairs. I think there's a Recchi, a Lindros, a Tocchet,
bunch of Tim Kerr,
some Kerrs, and it's like all these franchise legends, and probably going to be the longest tenured Flyer of all time, Scott Laughton. I'm telling you,
franchise legend.
He is, of course. Charlie, you're in the locker room last night, and obviously it was he gets the belt because he scored 4 freaking goals. We know how much everyone loves him on perfect display. He tries to be a good teammate. Go, all right, Hath. I already got a hat trick here, and Hathaway's like, absolutely not, dude.
Yeah. He couldn't pass it back fast enough.
Yeah, could not get it back to him fast enough. You're at practice today. It's a day later. Is the mood still is it lighter? Is everyone just kind of what does this do for the team, if anything?
It definitely seemed like people were feeling good. They did their they do this game sometimes at the end of practice. This was a relatively short practice, so they got on the ice. They were doing some skills things around 11:30, but the actual practice didn't start until a little bit before noon. They were done by 12:20, 12:25. And then after the circle, because when practice ends, they all go on the face-off circle and do stretches, and that's how practice officially ends. Sometimes they do a game where it's basically like knockout in a way, where you have one goalie and everybody has to try to beat the goalie, and once you score, you can leave, and if you don't score, you can't leave, and it's the last person standing is the loser. So everybody just wants to avoid losing. Not quite sure who lost, but they were having a lot of fun playing that. And that's usually a sign that they're in a good mood.
I don't know about you guys. Just the way that game unfolded. Sloppy in the first period. It was kind of a going through the motions game. Just, it's a Thursday in mid-December against a bad Red Wings team, mediocre at best.
Mediocre at best.
It's just not didn't feel like anyone was really all that excited for the game last night. Just didn't have that buzz that some games have had lately.
The crowd was a little light in comparison to other games this year.
And then all of a sudden, the dude who is the unquestioned leader, I was talking about this with Steve last night, when we saw on the standard, they go back to when they name Coots the captain. And before even that, Torts is just we all know. Scott Laughton is the ultimate leader of this team, but we're going to give the seat to Coots. He is that guy for this team. Yeah. I feel like this could kind of set them up they've been playing good hockey overall, but maybe little win streak. I just feel like this is the beginning of this is a line of demarcation for this team. And then from there, they were pretty good for a couple of weeks at least.
So here's the thing. All of the times that this group of players has had any success for any length of time, it's been entirely vibes-based. This is a vibes-based organization. Yeah. And so I feel like maybe this levity, maybe it'll knock some stuff loose for a couple of guys that haven't been scoring. Maybe guys will pick it up a little bit. I do think that there is an opportunity here, as silly as it may seem, for them to really build off of this throwaway game against the Red Wings and turn it into something good.
I think it's possible. Look, a big test is going to be on Saturday because Minnesota is a very good team. Yes. Now, whether they are actually a very good team that is a true cup contender, or if they are a good team that is playing very good over the first 30 games of the season. I guess we'll see over the long term. Right now, they have the second best points percentage in hockey. So they are right now a very good team in the way they're playing. It's going to be a tough game. But if they can go into Minnesota and beat them on the road, they set up to go on potentially a good little run here. Like LA's playing very well. They get them next week at home, but it's a home game.
Yeah.
They play this same Detroit team. They play Columbus again. So they play two teams next week that they beat this week.
Yes.
And then they get Pittsburgh, which is a mess right before the Christmas holiday. So there's a possibility they could go on, 4 out of 5, 5 out of 6, something like that. And then suddenly that final wild card spot, like that's wide open for this team. And I do believe, Kelly, that something like this, where you have a guy like Scott Laughton, who is so obviously, it's not even like Sean Couturier after the game said, he's probably the best teammate I've ever had in my career. It's not just that they like him. It's that I think they all realize how important he is, not just to the nebulous, like, well, team leader, chemistry, whatever. I think they realize, and this is something that I don't think a lot of fans quite get about Laughton. They realize how important he is to fostering the culture that allows them to develop guys well. I've made this point on multiple occasions, and I still hold to it. I don't know if Owen Tippett becomes even this version of Owen Tippett. I know people are frustrated because, well, he's not a 40-goal scorer. He could be better. He's way better than he was in Florida.
Yeah.
Way better. He is a quality, second line, maybe third line if you're super down on him, but clearly a 25-plus a year goal scorer. He is a good NHL player. Before he got traded to Philadelphia, he was maybe a career AHLer.
Splitting time.
Who gets a cup of teas here and there just because, well, you got to call him up and he's got physical tools. But, he's Julien Gauthier. He's like a guy who has the tools but never could put it together. One thing about Owen Tippett, I remember I did a feature on him right after he got traded because he was getting all the shots, all the chances, wasn't finishing. And you're like, well, there's something there. Got to keep giving it to him, and hopefully he puts it together. And I interviewed people from his junior days, growing up, and the point that was made was that he's a guy where once he feels comfortable somewhere, that's when he'll emerge because he's not the super boisterous, outgoing, traditional jock type. That's not him. He's a quiet guy who will literally do anything for his teammates. He's super loyal. He'll be driving guys to the doctor's appointments. He'll leave early from practice, and the coach will be annoyed. Or where did Owen go? And it's like, oh well, Joe had a doctor's appointment, and he said he would drive him. Like that. Those are the things that he would do. He's a great guy, but he's not a traditional hockey type guy. I don't think Owen Tippett becomes this version of Owen Tippett if Scott Laughton is not in that room in terms of the environment that he's created in that room, where a Scott Laughton locker room is one where everyone's welcome. And I don't mean to equate them, but I do think there are some similarities. Like he is obviously very pro LGBTQ and like welcoming in populations that don't always feel welcome in spaces. And I think he uses that same mentality of like, I want everyone to feel comfortable. I want everyone to feel like they belong. And I do think it has a positive impact on player development because it makes, guys that aren't necessarily the most outgoing, guys who might feel, not the most welcome in a lot of locker rooms, guys that don't know the language. Like he creates an environment in that room by what he prioritizes and what he makes sure is allowed and what isn't allowed to be said in that room that makes young guys feel immediately like they belong. And I will always say that happy players develop better. If you're miserable, you are probably less likely to develop into your best case scenario, as opposed to if you feel good and feel like you're one of the boys. And Scott Laughton makes it clear that if you're on this team and you're not a total dick, you're one of the boys. The only guy who I can say that he did not get along with was Ivan Provorov. Like, that's it. Everyone else is one of the boys.
It's a him problem.
Yeah, I don't think that was he was alone in that.
But seriously, I think on some level, they all get it. They get how important he is to creating that environment that everyone wants to be. Like, we talked about Morgan Frost. Like, Morgan Frost should want out. he should want to be traded.
Yes.
With the way John Tortorella treats him, he should want to get on the first plane out of Philadelphia to as far away from Torts as possible with the way he's been treated over the last 3 years. You know why Morgan Frost does not demand trades? Because he loves playing for the Flyers in that room. And maybe if you're a Morgan Frost hater, you think that's a bad thing. But, like, it's not a bad thing for guys to want to play here. And Laughton helps create the culture that makes guys want to stay in that locker room and play here, despite the fact that they're playing for a crazy head coach who makes all their lives miserable from time to time.
It's very funny. And I really, like, that point, I think sometimes we can, like, wave off the culture stuff because you can't quantify it. Like, all right, well, it has value. How much? Yeah. Well, no one can really say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean it's zero.
Yeah.
Like, it has value. You just can't go, well, you know, this guy scores this many points and they get this percentage of the scoring chances when he's on the ice. Like, those are things you can, like, there's a numerical value we can attach to that.
Exactly.
And it's very easy to say, well, that's his value to the team. That's not to say it, like, leadership and those things don't mean something. Clearly they do.
Yeah.
Like, you look at what's going on with the Rangers. We were just talking about them before the show. I look at their roster and go, like, this is a good team.
Should be a lot better.
They are fighting with the Flyers for the second wild card spot.
They won the President's Trophy last year.
Like, the Flyers beat them kind of handily. And, like, their goalie played an awesome game, and the Flyers beat the crap out of
They
him.
have the best goalie in the league, pretty much, and
just
somehow they
like
can't get it together.
In terms of what Kelly said, in terms of maybe inspiring other guys, getting them going, loosening everything up, I just find it very funny. Scott Laughton has struggled offensively coming into that game.
Yeah.
One goal in, like, his last 25 or something. He comes in with 3 goals, tied with Cam York, who plays defense and missed 13 games, and Garnett Hathaway, who doesn't score.
Yeah.
He now has 7. He's 4th on the team in scoring. That's TK
hilarious.
at 15, Mish at 11, Owen Tippett at 9, and then there's Scott Laughton with 7 goals. Just very funny to see.
Well, I listened to I have a class on Thursday night, so I missed, like, the first period of the game, and I listened to some of the second on the radio, and Saunders and Fridge mentioned that the Red Wings are like Scott Laughton's get up and go team. Like, they're the team for some reason he always performs best against. And Fridge was like, every guy has that team, and this is the team for Laughton. So it made sense that it was like after the first goal. So yeah, I guess it's just one of those things.
He'd scored goals, I think, coming in like 9 of his previous 11 games or something like that against the Red Wings. It was an incredible streak. But now I just get a big kick, and I asked Charlie about this in post-game last night. He's like, there is no answer. I don't know. And there isn't. But I just get a huge kick out of things like this. So Scott Laughton for his career, 631 games, 102 goals, 150 assists, 252 points, 0.4 points a game. Against the Red Wings, and he also has done well against the Capitals, but in a lot more games. But those two teams combined, 57 games, 26 goals, 10 assists, 0.63 points a game.
That's wild.
Incredible. Against the entire rest of the league, 574, 216, 0.38 points a game. He has over a quarter of his career goals and about 15% of his career points against just those two teams, and the Red Wings not in his division.
Yeah.
Like, even the year 2021 where they just played like certain teams, Detroit was not on that list for the Flyers. And somehow in 20 games, and really it's like 13, he's absolutely freaking dominated them. I love dumb, meaningless stats like this. I realize it's crazy and like doesn't actually, like, okay, so he kills the Red Wings. Cool. What does that mean? I don't know. But I'll tell you what's not meaningless. We have a live watch-along next Wednesday against the Wings, and you better believe we're betting Scott Laughton anytime goal. We're winning it all back. All of our bad beats, all of our lost bets are coming back to us next Wednesday. He's going to score a little bit for Kelly Hinkle's birthday, I think. It's just really cool, and I'm just more than anything happy for Scott Laughton.
I do.
Like, I'm just happy for him.
Yeah.
He catches a lot of flack, and even people like me, I'm like,
from us even,
begrudgingly. I think he has value.
Yeah.
I would trade him if I was the GM probably, but I would have like 2 years ago. Now, like I throw up my hands
After
now and just
last
go, it
night,
ain't happening. He's here forever.
No, after I watched that locker room video, I was like, you know what? Never mind.
I get it.
He's with the team until he decides he retires, and then he can go take over for Ian LaPerriere. Like he's with the organization
Laffy,
forever.
Whoever.
I mean, let's be honest. Scott Laughton, out of anyone on the team, definitely has the most future Flyers GM.
100%.
100%.
Oh, he is going to have some sort of role.
Yeah.
It's just his face, everything about him is just Flyer. Like he's a freaking Flyer.
Yes.
And that's just the way it is.
But going back to what you were saying about the Detroit thing. Look, like I do think it's ultimately random and fluky meanness. However, I do think it does reach a point, and especially with the Red Wings, it probably does reach a point where you have enough flukes break your way, and then suddenly you start believing it. Like you start feeling good every time you see the Red Wings pop up on the schedule because you're like, oh man, I always kill this team.
I think that's what Fedor was saying.
Then you feel better about yourself going into those games, and you just maybe play a little bit looser. I think the initial stuff is probably totally fluky, but once it gets to this point, then you're like, hell yeah, it's a Red Wings game. It's my time. Money on the board.
You're just feeling exactly like it happens enough that you're just suddenly, I can do this.
Yeah.
Like his second goal, shorthanded him and TK, like that's their thing. It hasn't happened that much this year, but they are like 1 and 2 in shorthanded points, like in their time together killing penalties.
Yeah.
The empty netters, listen, you got to earn the time to be out there, and it's great that it happened. The first one.
Yeah, does he wind up and take
a breakaway clapper? Part of it is, listen, Cam Talbot was killing them last night, and he even said, I think, like, I'm watching him make these saves. I'm just going to try to put it through him because what the hell else can I do? Does he have the confidence against any other team to like, I'm going to channel John LeClair?
No, that's how
just
I'm
have a breakaway
myself.
clapper.
Yeah.
Like that, and that's what happened. And it would like, it was funny because the last one is LeClair against Montreal. And it's, well, he always killed them. Like that was one of those teams for LeClair. But there's a reason why. You can point to like, he won a cup there and then they traded him. Like, okay, I'll show you. This is just the Detroit Red Wings. Like, I don't know. Is he mad at them like us about 97? You just can't find like it's not a revenge game or anything.
At least with the Capitals, you can say, well, Matt Niskanen like almost killed Laughton in that playoff series.
Playoff game,
so maybe that's revenge for that. I have no idea if there's any inciting incident you can point to with the Red Wings.
Exactly what you said, Charlie. He probably just had a few random lucky games against the Red Wings, and then like the fourth or fifth one, he's like, "This is me. Like I'm going to do this." And then you get to the point where you're like, "I'm going to take a wind-up clapper on a breakaway because I'm definitely going to score." It's the Red Wings.
That was so cool.
It was the greatest.
That's just
I loved
a cool
it so much.
thing to do. Yeah. One more thing on Lotz because we have a lot to do today. He signed through next season at $3 million a year. Do you think? And like July 1st, at some point this summer, he signs like the immediate extension as soon as he's eligible.
Oh man.
Is it a go into your year, we'll figure it out thing? Is a let's just wait till, a couple of days before you actually hit the market?
I didn't even think of that.
Is he worth more on the open market because teams value like a team like Buffalo or a team like Ottawa, like these teams that seem to be stuck, like Detroit, like maybe just needs something and it's like, well, that's it.
Would he want to though?
Would he want to leave?
No, he wants to stay.
That's
but
what I mean.
What if
like,
you could cash in?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. That's what I'm saying. Like, Scott Laughton strikes me as the type of person who would be like, I'll take a couple million less to stay here. I like it here.
I could absolutely see a scenario. And like, I don't want to put words in Scott Laughton's mouth because obviously, like, I want guys to get paid fairly.
Of course, yes.
But I could see a scenario where, Laughton sits down with Danny Briere this summer. Danny's like, look, we love you. We're not going to trade you. You want to work out some sort of deal. And Laughton says, you know what? Like, let's do it. And I will take less than I would get on the open market. But like, number one, you got to give me a no trade clause.
Yeah.
And number two, you got to basically look me in the eye and promise me you're not going to trade me next year before it kicks in. And like, yeah, I'll sign a deal that pays me $1.75 million for a couple years.
I was gonna say,
with a no trade, where like when like I know I could probably get 3.5 on the open market, but I want to stay and I don't want to have that threat of a trade hanging over my head anymore. So I'll give you guys a big discount if you basically guarantee me that I no longer have to worry about getting moved.
Homer's sitting there listening to that conversation like, yes, we promise.
Yes. Sign an 8-year deal.
No, I'm literally sitting here thinking like, 8 years, 16 million, full no move. It will say, like, I think he might be able to go out there and like take advantage of one of those teams that's like
Probably could.
Oh, for sure.
oh, we
Probably.
need this,
Leadership,
all that
yeah.
stuff. Charlie just said, listen, the analytics guy, like they're sitting around like the analytics guy in Philly thinks that he's this genius leader who like creates this beautiful atmosphere.
Yeah.
They can deal with torts because of this dude. Give him something.
I think it's a not insignificant part of it. I really do.
I absolutely agree, but it's just you being the source of that
Right.
is like maybe there is something to it. And one of those teams that's needing some of that would go $4 million. It's like, yeah, I love Scott. I'm not paying him $4 million. Like,
No.
It's just one of those. But I see him staying, and I was just looking at it like, because he's been signed so long, I'm just like, oh, he's signed forever. I'm like, oh,
No, we're coming
One
up on
more
the end
year.
of the deal.
Coming
Yeah.
up.
one more year.
I did not even think about the possibility of signing him early like they did with Hathaway, but there's precedent. They did it with Hathaway. Maybe they would have that conversation with Laughton. I don't know, but they might.
What time
Can't
does
rule it
Danny
out.
Briere wake up in the morning? Because it'll be that time, July 1st.
July
Danny
1st.
actually, interestingly enough, Danny was in the it's the first time I've ever seen him. I know he's done it. I've seen videos. This is the first time I've ever seen him in the locker room after a practice. He was chatting with Laughton, actually.
Look at
Interesting.
this.
Yeah.
Lots like,
I mean, they're about to leave for Minnesota, so they're all getting on
Yeah.
the plane. But yeah, he was in the locker room just like wearing casual clothes, chatting with Lots about something.
Lots is like, hey, you're Mr. Playoffs and all, but you ever score 4? I don't think you did.
I don't know if Danny
didn't
Briere
see-
ever scored 4 goals
Maybe
in
in
a game.
Buffalo or something,
Maybe.
but not here.
I don't remember it ever happening in Philly now.
Before
Well,
we,
obviously not. We have the list.
before we go any further, it's time to chill.
Hey.
I can't chill. Honestly, after a Scott Laughton 4-goal game, who would want to chill? But, sometimes we all have to celebrate those moments with an ice cold Coors Light because this team gives us plenty of reasons to be fired up, plenty of reasons to be upset, plenty of reasons to go, what the hell are you doing? Last night was not one of those nights. So celebrate with those Blue Mountains in your fridge and just enjoy these times we get to sit back and enjoy being Flyers fans. There's no better way to chill than with an ice cold Coors Light. I'm a beer guy. I've been into Coors Light lately. I know they're a sponsor. It's like, oh, really? No, I've been enjoying it. I think you will too. So hit up Coors Light. Make the most of the times you choose to chill. Choose Coors Light. Get Coors delivered straight to your door or find a store near you by going to CoorsLight.com/PHLY Hockey. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. While we're here, you got your beers. Maybe you want to have some of those beers at a game.
Oh.
You've got to go to a game with Game Time, the best secondary ticket marketplace in the game. And now with the new feature Game Time Picks, you can get tickets for all your live events even easier. Filters out the fluff so you only get incredible deals on great seats and don't waste time searching through thousands of tickets. But they still have all the old features that made it such a great ticket marketplace as well, from the all-in pricing, the seat views, the low price guarantee, and the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code PHLY for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it?
Game time.
Oh, way to go, Kelly.
Thanks.
William, that was a fantastic transition.
It really was.
I don't know if you planned that one out.
I didn't.
But it was real good.
I didn't remember what the
It's
ads
the
were
best of
until
the
we got
business,
to
ladies and
them.
gentlemen.
Really good.
That's why I have to write everything in the article or in the outline because I have no idea what I'm going to say until, it's right in front of me. So that's the Laughton
The
part
fact
of
that
this.
you're able to do that on the fly. You're very good at this, Bill.
He's really
I'm trying. I'm really trying. That's the Laughton part of this. The other part, the second best player on the ice for the Flyers last night, Aleksei Kolosov.
He was very good. It's a bummer he didn't get his first shutout.
He comes within like
So
4 minutes
close,
of his
I
first
know.
career shutout. I didn't say it, Henkel. I did not
thank
say
you
it.
for your service.
We debated, Steve and I, whether Jim Jackson saying has stopped all 22 or whatever that he's faced. If that was, I was like, that's, I think, dancing around it enough.
Dance, yeah, you can dance around.
I feel like you're asking the two people who are on the furthest ends
I
of,
know.
the, of
Yes.
the jinx spectrum. I believe they don't exist. Kelly believes they drive everything.
I mean,
I think announcers and everything are allowed to say it. It's the
Oh.
boys on the bench. It's the guys in the club. Like, if you're in the dugout and you say no hitter to your pitcher, that pitcher should be allowed to punch you in the face as hard as he can. A goalie, if you say shutout to him and you're his teammate, he should be able to two-hand you like Ron Hextall. But everyone else has no effect on the game.
Here's a question. Did they put up the hat trick watch?
They did.
They did?
Yes. Steve was yelling about that during the game. Like, they have a Laughton hat trick watch. No, he's not going to get it. But he ended up scoring twice more.
Win this round, Charles.
I truly do love, like, I think it's dumb that they have the hat trick alert thing up.
I hate it.
But I love it because it ticks off all the people who believe in jinxes so much. Like, it's kind of like injected into my veins because it bothers people like Kelly so much.
I didn't realize it was like a thing people were mad at until Steve said it last
Yeah.
night.
Every time I see it, I'm like, what are you doing? You put it up on the screen? We all know.
Yeah.
Be quiet.
I mean, like, that's a no-hitter, especially like if a guy has a few walks or something and it's like you don't see it till the scoreboard comes out, like, oh, there's no hits. But like, you know, when a guy has 2 goals, like that is a very obvious thing. It's the only thing happening in the game. Like, it was
goals are very memorable.
Legitimately, the only thing happening in the game last night until the third period was the Laughton hat trick watch. But Aleksei Kolosov, on the day, John Tortorella basically announces to the media, which I was a little surprised that they said it out loud. But I mean, it's probably better than, okay, it was Ersson with Kolosov backing up. Now it's Kolosov with Ersson backing up. We're going to go back to Ersson. Hey, when's Fedotov getting it? Like, probably better than getting the question in a week. Just come out and say it.
The evidence is pretty much staring you in the face.
I was a little surprised that they just came out and were like, oh, he's the 3. Like, cut and dry. It's been decided. It is decided. Like,
I mean, it's torts.
I know. I was just a little surprised because, like, goalie stuff, goalies are weird, man. I don't know.
It's funny. This is a total sidebar. I actually just brought up today. I made reference to the show, the TV show, The League, where that's from. Because remember the episode where they had the back face app, where you could tell like what somebody was from like just looking at the back of their head.
Yeah,
that came up in the media room today. Sorry, I just had to bring that up because that show has been off the air for like a decade, we now have 2 league references in my life in one day.
We live in a simulation, shortly.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Were you a little surprised that they just came out and were like, it's decided?
I was a little surprised that he was just like, oh yeah, by the way, Fedotov sucks. We all know it. He's the 3 now.
I don't think he thinks Fedotov sucks. And I think he has the utmost respect for what Fedotov went through in his life.
I was being hyperbolic.
I know.
Absolutely. I've said all along, like, if the movie of Fedotov's life ends last season when he gets into that game in Montreal,
you got
that's as good as Rudy. Like, it's better than Rudy.
You got to cut it.
Like, it's, if it ends with him beating Vasilevsky in the shootout, with Vasilevsky, a countryman legend, going for win 300, that's a great freaking movie.
Yeah.
I did kind of find it funny that like Fedotov found a little something, gets something going. Just pure numbers wise, the best since the initial Ersson injury. And we'll get into some other numbers that like 5-on-5, maybe Kolosov's been the best of the 3 at some points this season. But he has 1 bad period, 2 goals that he should have stopped, and Tortorella is immediately back to where he was before that Tampa game. Yeah. We're giving Kolosov a look. Because Kolosov stunk in that game as well, and he starts the next game.
So, like, we know that John Tortorella has a history of, like, making a decision about a dude, and, like, you have to work really hard to overcome that decision that he's made about you based on whatever information he had at the time. Is it possible that, like, those first few games with the flippity-floppity where he was just, like, real
700
bad.
700 save percentage.
That Torts was just like, nah, this ain't it. And, like, he's going to have to lights out to overcome Tortorella's belief that he's just not it.
So maybe. Here's my...
I mean, someone's got to be 3.
Here's my personal theory of what it is. And I will go back to what John Tortorella has said on so many occasions. Whenever you ask him about goalies, he's always like, I don't know anything about goalies. I just talked to Kim Dillabaugh. Now, could this all be coming from Kim Dillabaugh? Maybe. Maybe Kim Dillabaugh is the one driving this, and he tells Torts, look, Kolosov's just the better goalie. He's the more reliable one. We should stick with him. Here's what I think is really going on here. John Tortorella openly says he's not a goalie expert, that he doesn't really know how to evaluate the position technically. Now, none of us are goalie experts. So what do we go on when we evaluate goals? Well, number one, we'll go on numbers, sure. But when the numbers aren't great, what do we go on? We go on eyes and vibes.
Yep.
Aleksei Kolosov just looks like a more reliable, trustworthy goalie than Ivan Fedotov does. And if you're John Tortorella and you don't really know the position, and you're purely going by who makes me feel better when he's in net, you're going to go with Kolosov because Fedotov just looks, as you say, bajiggity in goal. He does. Even when he's playing well, he does.
I know.
The comparison I made last night, and it's funny because it's reverse, because like Fedotov is the older of the two. But like, especially in the Hackstall era, we'd say this all the time. Like, coaches will allow a bad player out there if they're bad in a way that they can predict.
Yes.
Like, yeah, I know Andrew McDonald is not good, but I know what he's not good at. And I know what's going to happen when he's on the ice.
I can build a system around it.
A dude might, like, Shane Gostisbehere might score a goal, and he also might get cross-checked into the third row trying to defend the front of the net, and I can't have that, don't know what's going to happen, so I prefer this guy to that guy. Both of these goalies might not be very good. It's like right now, just the way they're playing, the goals they're giving up, neither of them might be very good overall. But I think I could just predict Kolosov a little bit better. So we're going to go with him.
I just think the vibes. It's about, I think with Torts and goalies, because he doesn't have the background to be able to really judge all the technique, he just kind of goes by vibes because Kolosov gives up some weak goals. Like that's where he's raw. He gives up some goals where you're just like, yikes. Like how did you possibly miss that one? So does Fedotov. But the thing is that when Kolosov is playing goal, he looks normal. He looks like a normal athletic goalie. Whereas Fedotov, he'll have some games where he'll make 26 out of 28 saves, and you just come away thinking like, how did he do that?
Yeah,
it never looked good.
No.
Now he did it, and you can't take away from the results. But the vibes around his performance, in my opinion, and I suspect Tortorella probably shares it because we're coming at it from the same we both watch a ridiculous amount of hockey. Now Torts has watched way more over his life than I have because number one, he's a coach. Number two, he's nearly double my age, but we've both watched a lot of hockey. We have a general idea of what good goaltending play is, and we have a general feel of what makes us feel confident in a goalie. I don't feel confident when Fedotov is in goal, even when he's playing well. I feel better when Kolosov is, and I think that really might be what it boils down to.
I think it might boil down to some numbers as well. This is a tweet from @TheFlyerZone I saw today, and it's their goaltenders numbers at 5-on-5 this season.
Okay.
Kolosov kind of running away with it. Interesting. It's actually very interesting. He's .908 save percentage at 5-on-5. His goals against is around 2.25. He's got a positive goal save above average and high danger save percentage. He's crushing the other two at 813. The other two are in the 790s. They're 5-on-5 just plain save percentages right around 890. Kolosov has let up some weak ones, and I think that is part of why the penalty kill is struggling overall. I think all three goalies have let up some weak goals this year, quite a few of them. But in these high danger situations, in the we're playing it out, he has come up with some clutch saves as well. This team has struggled to close out games all year. They've blown some leads, but Kolosov, it's hard to argue with some of these numbers.
It could just play into that perception of reliability too. I mean, Torts is not a numbers guy. He's never been a numbers guy. But there are times where I think he probably picks up on trends that would show themselves in the numbers if he ever bothered to look at them.
And I bet Kim Dillabaugh and
does have the numbers.
They're tracking.
Yes.
They're tracking scoring chances. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
God knows what sort of verbiage they use. If it's goals save above ad. I wonder if they're looking at something like this and just going, yeah, there are some holes here, but as we've said, some weak goals, but overall he's kept his head above water. Yeah. And for a dude who's this young, we said it going along, all along with Carter Hart. Tough to find a comparable for a goalie this age because it doesn't happen all that often. You're looking at real small sample sizes of goalies who play this much at this age. Yeah.
Right.
So it's I don't know what the trajectory really is, but he's at least keeping his head above water right now. And looking at how this is going to go, he's the stated number 2. Ersson's had some injury trouble, and that goes into the decision to play Kolosov last night, and they're going to go back to Ersson. I saw the quote we might have, we weren't going to give Sam 4 games in 1 week coming back from the injury.
Good idea.
Which to me is, okay, well, if health wasn't a concern, we'd be treating Ersson like the true number 1. But since it is a little bit of a concern now, Do you think this is the last time Kolosov climbs the depth chart? Do you think he can maybe push for a time split the way Ersson did last year?
So I mean, I kind of think that has to be in their mind just based off what we've seen from Sam Ersson. We know that too much is too much for him. So there's definitely a point at which you start to get diminishing returns from Sam Ersson. So I'm hoping that the reason that they're leaning on Kolosov is that the age, I think, probably makes them think that they have a better chance of turning him into something. Whereas Fedotov is a fully formed large man, and they probably can't fix a lot of his problems. And Kolosov, like you said, just looks like he has better tools than Fedotov does. So I'm kind of hoping that like they're going to try to bring Kolosov along in such a way that he can at least take, 2 of 6 or whatever, like some kind of split where Ersson does get regular nights off and he doesn't get anywhere near the level of burnt out that we saw last year.
Yeah, like I didn't think that comment that he made today was terrible. Not that it wasn't enlightening. It's obviously interesting to hear the thought process of the coach and the coaching staff in terms of goalie decisions. But even if Ersson, even in a world where Ersson has not gotten hurt at all this year, he's played, he's been the number one the whole year. He hasn't missed any time. I don't think there's a world where he starts 4 games in a week. Like this is a normal. Like,
oh yeah,
they played Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday. Now they play Saturday. That is a pretty busy schedule. I don't think there's a world where he ever would have played all 4 games. And John Tortorella's comment was more just reminding us that, like, okay, number one, he's coming off injury. Number two, 4 games in 7 days is a lot. We were never going to make him play 4 straight games, so we got Kolosov in here. Now, going back to your original question, though, about could Kolosov push his way up into a timeshare? Maybe. I can't rule that possibility out. Ersson's 24, I believe, still. I think he turns 25 in January, I believe. And Kolosov's, 22?
Yeah.
They're both young goalies. They like Ersson a lot. They really like his mental makeup. They like him as a player. That said, I don't think they're wedded to him as their long-term number one. This is still an open competition. And if Kolosov dramatically outplays Ersson, the same way that Ersson dramatically outplayed Hart, not even because Hart was playing bad, Ersson was just playing great.
He was on a heater. He was like a 930 for a month and a half.
Exactly. Could I see a world where they do a time split? Sure, absolutely. And there are going to be decisions they're going to have to make with regards to the goalie situation overall. Now we can get into, all right, well, if these are the 1-2, what happens to number 3?
That's Ers turned 25 October 20th, but it is January 4th. Kolosov will be 23.
23.
So, yeah.
Okay.
How long do they keep 3? This is something I talked about with Steve last night. We all remember last year, they were holding on to Felix Sandstrom, didn't want to put him through waivers. There's some goalie unrest in the league, especially in Tampa. It was like, does Tampa want Felix Sandstrom? I don't know, but they kind of just need a goalie. Yeah. And they held on until the situation worked itself out. Yeah. And Vasilevsky was back.
And in retrospect, I think they were like, at any time this Hockey Canada report could come out or charges could be filed, and we want to have a goalie in case we wake up one day and Carter Hart is no longer available.
Do you think it's a coincidence they made this determination? We have a 2 and a 3, and it's decided. Colorado figured out their goalie situation. They're not going to be looking to claim anyone on waivers. Maybe. Now, would they want Ivan Fedotov at that price? No idea. Probably not. But when they had, like, Georgiev had worse numbers than Fedotov. Yeah. Like, he was the worst goalie in hockey.
Remember, we talked about that.
Yeah. Like, the only goalie with worse numbers is this dude in Colorado. They were getting no goaltending. Now they have 2 brand new goalies from what they had on starting night. Still maybe a situation in Carolina. Now it's like, well, if we wanted an unproven Russian guy, we'd just play Kochetkov every night.
I don't think they have to worry about Carolina.
I very much doubt it. But I don't know if they had to worry about anything with Felix Sandstrom.
I don't think they did.
I just feel like maybe these things are tangentially related.
You never know. But regardless, I do think that we're coming up on a point where they're going to make a decision. Mm-hmm. And just going by some of these quotes we've gotten from John Tortorella over the past 10, 11 days. So first one, this was right when Ersson got back into practice. And he says on Monday, December 2nd, it's not ideal to have 3 goalies around all the time. I think eventually we're going to have to figure this out depending upon health. And then Tortorella yesterday, Ersson's our number 1, Coley's our number 2, Feds is our number 3. That's been decided. You look at these quotes together. 1, we're not going to stick with 3 forever. 2, we got our 1 and our 2 and we got our 3. That tells me that at some point in the relatively near future, they're going to make a decision on Fedotov, whether that is a straight demotion in terms of them sending him through waivers, or because they do have the ability to do this, at least as long as Nick Delorier is on IR, they could go with the conditioning stint route in a bit when he's missed enough time. And they could say, you get some work in, we keep you fresh, and maybe somebody gets injured and you get called up eventually. If nobody gets injured, then we can maybe discuss whether we're gonna waive you to stay down there or whatever. But it would allow them to kick the can down the road, because it does seem like with this entire goalie situation, really with this entire roster situation for the last 2-3 weeks, it's all been about kicking the can down the road. That's been the entire strategy.
Yeah, we have decisions to make. Also, circumstances can change at any point during a game. Like Rasmus Ristolainen leaves the ice wincing last night. It's like, well, suddenly there's not a logjam at defense. Now he's fine, it seems.
He played.
But he came back. I think he missed one shift.
He practiced today.
Yeah. But he was in regular rotation after that. He's fine. But it was just like, well, we're making all these decisions about the defense, and it could totally change in 1 minute. Maybe that's what they're thinking with the goalies, like especially through this condensed schedule leading up to Christmas and everything. Kick the can down the road.
Yeah.
Couldn't hurt.
Yeah.
All right. Before we go any further, I got to tell you about Glatt Hair Restoration. Glatt Hair Restoration is now under the direction of renowned plastic surgeon, Dr. Ken Morgenstern. If you've been a John Marks fan, a listener at all over the years, you know he's not just a pitchman for them. He is a client. So you're wondering, I wonder if anything's changed now that there's maybe some different things going on at Glatt. There absolutely aren't. You still get the same peerless approach to care, same expert team, same unmatched Glatt system, same state-of-the-art location, and the same stellar results under the direction of Dr. Morgenstern, a highly respected plastic surgeon. And each member of the exceptionally trained team at Glatt Hair brings 30-plus years of industry experience, because hair restoration is all they do. Anyone can just buy equipment and say they do hair restoration. This is their thing. From laser light therapy, non-invasive TED treatments, vitamin supplementation, topical and oral medications, PRP and stem cell restoration, and hair restoration surgery. Whatever your path might be, you can find out with Glatt, because each patient receives a complimentary one-on-one consultation to pinpoint the best course of treatment. It's not everyone's hair is the same. Not everyone's in the same stage of hair loss. But one thing is true. Bald is now optional. If you want to improve how you look and how you feel about yourself, Glatt Hair has the right treatment for you. Regain your confidence. Visit glatthairmctr.com or call 610-980-4000 to get started today. While we're here, it's True Mark time. That's right, because we all know how hard it is to win without proper coaching. That's why we gotta love torts. Well, if you've got kids, True Mark has the ultimate playbook for teaching financial responsibility with a free Greenlight account. The Greenlight app is changing the game and helping kids and teens learn how to earn, save, and spend wisely. You can set up savings goals, track spending, and even get an allowance all in the app. And it's the really cool part. Each kid gets their own debit card, so they make purchases and learn real-world money skills while you stay in control from your phone. So you get the peace of mind, and they get the freedom to make smart decisions with their money. It's like coaching your kids through their very own financial game. And for TrueMark Financial members, it's free. With the holidays right around the corner, now is the perfect time to introduce your kids to Greenlight. Get signed up today. Visit trumark.com/Greenlight for more information. I'm interested to see how the goalie situation plays out. I wondered how long it would actually be a competition. It doesn't really seem like it was. Last night, I was like, just naming him the number 2 feels like maybe they're putting their thumb on the scale and, well, he might leave if we send him down. He has the higher upside. He's younger. But watching that game last night, I do think,
there's something there.
Overall, he's been better.
Yeah.
Fedotov had a nice run, and I do think it's a shame, one bad period. Everyone plays bad sometimes, that it kind of is just all right, and that's that. It's over. But it may have been decided before that.
Yeah, I mean, it does stink for Fedotov that, A, he struggled when he got here for whatever reason it was, and B, that Kolosov forced his little way in there and ended up playing pretty well, because that could have gone terribly for Kolosov, but it didn't. So it is what it is. The Fedotov story is really fun. And honestly, like, just go have fun in Allentown, dude. You'll be fine. Play some hockey. Buy everybody dinner. It'll be great. You'll be the tallest guy there for sure.
I want to know if it's him and Cal Peterson in the AHL, if that's the most expensive AHL goalie tandem ever.
Oh, gotta be.
Well, it's probably now. Now, whether it's ever, I'm not sure.
I wonder
Someone
if Briz
research that
alone,
for Bill.
like Briz alone, maybe when he was.
Did he get sent down?
Was he down there?
Oh, we didn't send him down. No, he was in
Flyers
the AHL.
Yeah,
but you still collecting his buyout check.
Yeah,
because there are stories of
so
him
in terms
taking
real money.
Yeah, taking the boy. There are stories of him like taking the boys out to dinner and being like, "This one's on the Flyers." Let's get to some Michkov stuff. Skip ahead a little bit here.
All right.
Want to start with. I mean, the story of the day. It's great. Like Scott Laughton, 4 goals. Rookie Aleksei Kolosov, the number 2. Great game last night. We're going to talk about a failed Michigan attack.
He tried.
This is some really good. It was close, man. He almost had it. Really nice save by Cam Talbot to deny Michkov his first Michigan goal. But today, the story is John Tortorella has conceded. He has admitted defeat in the war on fun.
Respect.
He's just like, listen, there's nothing I can do. Now, his reasoning here, honestly, saying, like, it's part of the game. I guess I don't think it should be, but whatever. Nothing I can do about it. His reasoning for telling Michkov to kind of cut it out earlier in the season was he thought there were just better plays to be made. Like, he was like, I don't know, a couple of times there might have been someone open for a pass.
Yeah.
I thought there was times he was just like, screw it, I'm doing it, and it was a good idea. He just didn't pull it off. But just kind of using the idea, listen, you're a great passer. You have great vision. You might be able to make an even more creative play and work on that. And we've seen, like, great distributor.
Yeah.
I thought so much like, oh, he's going to be a pure goal scorer. And he just has a great mind for figuring out how that puck can get into the back of the net. Like, basically the winning shot in Happy Gilmore.
Yes.
Like, however you have to visualize it, he can see it, you know?
Yeah.
I do kind of like respect Torts here for just going, he's awesome. What do you want me to do?
I respect it. And also, like, he makes a good point. If you're trying the Michigan every single time you're back there, everyone knows it's what you're going to do, and you're never going to get it. Guys are just going to start two-handing you as soon as you get back there. Like, so it probably is good that he figures out a few other cool things that he can do from behind the net, and he obviously has. But I'm also glad he's still trying. I want him to get one. He's going to get one before the season's up.
Oh, so bad.
100%.
And like last night, they you probably didn't see it because it was on the broadcast, but they someone from the Philly Wings was like in the crowd. They interviewed him.
Oh, neat.
Like, so it was like a lacrosse thing, and it was like, oh, I wonder if it's like a Wings night because they're playing the Wings. But it was like, oh, it would be cool to score the lacrosse goal, like with the lacrosse team there.
That would have been fun.
That would have been fun, but. One thing I wanted to ask was, are you surprised he hasn't actually scored one yet? Because we saw him do it with such regularity in the KHL.
Well,
but I looked it up. There have been 9 if you include the Zegras assist on that sick like lacrosse pass to Milano.
Oh, yeah.
That kind of, I think that's the one.
That was the
that
first.
spurred the Tortorella.
It was, yeah.
When they asked him what he thinks about it, and his reply was, I miss physicality.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what created the entire controversy and what makes this a thing. The year he didn't coach and was on ESPN, he made that one comment about Zegras, and suddenly it's like he now carries the flag of he's the guy who hates the Michigan, when it's like everyone in hockey
that's
hates
one thing I talked about. I brought it up before the show, that the one thing I think is a bit unfair to John Tortorella in this whole thing. And his comments today were fine. Like, yeah, you don't want to stop Matvei Michkov from doing it because he loves doing it. Just maybe don't do it all the time. Don't make that your only move from behind the net. I think that was perfectly fine comments from John Tortorella. What I do think is a little unfair to Torts is that he has gotten painted as like the grumpy old man, old school dude who hates the Michigan when everyone else thinks it's the most fun thing in the world. I got news for you. The vast majority of hockey people that are like over the age of 40 also hate the Michigan. Fans almost universally love it. We tend to think it's great. People in hockey, like John Tortorella is not on an island here. In fact, he is probably in the majority if you're talking about like people over the age of 40 that are employed by hockey teams.
Yeah.
They don't like goalies hate it. if you watch an NBC Sports Philadelphia, intermission or post-game show, you can tell Scott Hartnell hates it. Like, this is not a move that most people in games, in the game, like. John Tortorella just happens to be the one who, like, he's the only guy who hates the Michigan. Trust me, he ain't. There are a lot of people who hate it.
It's, I find the whole thing I find this endlessly entertaining. I will say, like, the version of me that played hockey in high school, like, if someone tries that, I am cross-checking them. Because that was, like, I was an angry defenseman who fought. Like that was,
you were?
Like,
shocking.
I'm spearing that dude. Like, that's just what's going to happen. But now, like, I've learned to love it because the game has changed. And if you don't like that fun stuff, you're not going to like hockey anymore.
Yeah.
Like, that's just the way it is. The game isn't played the same way.
It's fun.
But I couldn't believe there've only been 8 actual lacrosse-style Michigan goals. Svechnikov was the first. He got one in 2019 was his first one. He scored 3 total. Now, the very first Michigan, when it got named the Michigan, that's in 1996.
Was it really?
96.
Yeah.
And it was 2019 the first time someone pulled it off in the NHL. So he has 3.
It was Svechnikov, yeah.
Svech has 3.
I remember Sarah Sivian tried to make it when the NHL version, she tried to get people to start calling it the Svech.
The Svech.
And people lost their goddamn minds.
I lose my
trying to
mind
make
about calling
Svech
it the lacrosse goal. It's the Michigan. It's always been the Michigan.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it is. Zegras has 2, plus the assist to Sonny Milano.
Okay.
Bedard has 1. Philip Forsberg has 1. Kent Johnson has 1. That's it. According to anywhere I can find, there have been 8/9 ever in the NHL.
It seems hard to do.
Like last night, I'm like, I'm kind of surprised he doesn't have one. And then I'm like, oh, there's only ever been 8. Like, it's not
a frequent thing.
It's not a high, maybe Torts' issue with it more than anything is like, is this the highest efficiency play?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't seem to occur all that much.
Yeah.
Like, Mish is one of the guys who can do it, and we saw him, like, master it in 2nd, 3rd best league in the world. Hasn't pulled it off yet. Also, the way the game is officiated, we've talked, like, one of the first ones he tried, a dude just, like, broke his stick.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's a slash if the puck's on the ice.
Yeah.
There's kind of no rules in defending it. Like, all right, this is a part of the game. We can't stop you from doing it. But basically anything anyone does to stop you, we are going to allow.
I equated it to the tush push,
Yeah.
where the officials, because they're not allowed to just say it's illegal, but they don't like the tush push, they basically let the other team go up to the line of murder to prevent it. And it seems like NHL officials are treating the Michigan the same way.
Yeah. And not surprising. Do you think there's anything to, listen, I thought that was a good call last night on the Michkov penalty. He slips a jab in there. You can't do that. There were some people who were like, that's just a battle, and if he doesn't try the Michigan in the first period or earlier in the game, that's no call. Do you think there's anything to that?
I can't rule it out entirely.
Maybe.
We don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think that officials, not all, I don't want to paint everyone with a brush. I think that there are officials that share the antipathy towards the Michigan that a lot of old school hockey men feel towards it. So it's possible. My first thought when I saw that play, and I mentioned this before the show as well, that struck me as we gave you a warning earlier in the game, kid, not to go over the top in scrums. You did it again. This time we're sending you in the box. Like, that struck me as officials managing the game kind of thing, more so than them jumping the gun and just giving him a penalty because they don't like the rookie. That said, and you brought up something interesting before the show as well, officials talk to each other. And it was only a couple of games ago when Matvei Michkov tried to tear a whistle out of an official's mouth. So maybe the officials at the moment are not positively predisposed. The officials guild is not positively predisposed towards Matvei Michkov.
And this isn't like he punched Macklin Celebrini. He's throwing, like, preceding that whole whistle situation the other night, he's throwing punches over the top. That's why the refs are trying to get him, like, isolate him out of the situation. He seems in these scrums to be more than willing to be the aggressor. Like, maybe everyone has noticed that. Like,
it rules.
Stop punching people. Now, I'm all for it. Like, a guy, it's not as if the league is not taking liberties on him.
Exactly.
So I like that he's fighting back.
Right.
He's got a scrappy / undersized dirty dude as his GM, the guy who drafted him, he had to defend himself sometimes. He's got that in him.
Well, that's the thing. I want to make sure that like the rest of the league understands that he's not just going to take the abuse that he had been getting at the early part of the season.
Even from the officials.
Yeah, he will take your whistle if you insist on blowing it in his ear like a child.
Yeah, that was the amount of restraint.
I'm glad I wasn't there
to not butt in that guy.
It was directly in his ear.
Anyway,
we don't have to relitigate it.
If
Bill was correct.
If he were, you can say what you want. If he were to strike an official for any reason, he would be suspended for a month.
20 games.
Yeah.
What did Weidman get? I think it was like forever, and then it got knocked down to like 20 or something.
It was a while.
I don't know. It was a while ago, but there is some actual Mish stuff other than the fun of the Michigan I want to get to, and it's his line with Tippett and Frost.
It's working well. Yeah.
You look at some of these numbers, and I believe in analytics when they tell me what I want to see. And when they don't, I go, the numbers don't know everything.
Exactly.
Oh boy.
That's how you're supposed to use them.
Since the Vegas game, when this became like a real line, reassembled, because they started with it and got away from it. They mixed and matched for a while, but
it basically made it through 2 periods of the first game of the year.
I think it's been like 8 or 9 games. So I went back to Vegas, 11-25. They've played a little more than 84 minutes together at 5-on-5. Over 66% of the expected goals. Actual goals at 5-on-5. 9-0.
Wow.
Almost 59% of the shots for. Scoring chances, they're out chancing teams 42-30. High danger chances, 18-10. 88-69, nice. In total attempts for and against. They're pretty much only being deployed on offense, like 54 O-zone faceoffs, 36 in the neutral zone, 10 on D.
That's fine.
But seems the right way to use 3 guys who know how to score and don't play a ton of great defense.
Right.
It's working. It's the coach is using the players appropriately. Yeah. And in 9 games, they're outscoring teams 9-0.
That's wild.
They're not getting killed.
Good.
Like, it's working.
They're doing the killing.
This is a really good line. And that's one of the reasons, like, when I look at the standings now, I want to do a standings update at some point. I'm looking at the East. I gotta believe the Rangers are gonna figure it out, but what if they just don't?
Nah, what if they don't?
What if their locker room is in such shambles that it's like they're the Devils last year, but for different reasons? Yeah. Mm-hmm. What if that just kind of happens? Because all year it was like, if the Devils just get a save, if they can just get healthy, and then they have the 10th pick because it never happened.
Right.
Like, what if they traded their captain, the Rangers, and Shesterkin gets this mega deal, and nobody ever gets it going? Like, they just never quite get there.
There's always one team a year that just dramatically underachieves expectations.
And then you look at the rest of the East. Like, who's better than the Flyers?
Nobody.
Absolutely. Like, like the division.
I guess the Canes.
The division leaders in the East, sure. The Leafs, Panthers, Bruins, Caps, Devils, Canes. Yeah. You look at the wild card race. Tampa they're not great anymore, but they're still good.
They got stuff.
The Flyers held Tampa to 1 goal and beat them in a shootout with their 3rd string goalie.
I think they're right with the Lightning at this point.
They beat the Rangers on Black Friday. They kind of beat the crap out of them.
Whooped them.
Despite a great Shesterkin game. Like, they got the thing that they need and still lost to the Flyers. They outshot them 34-23. Again, this is with Fedotov, who they just named number 3 in net. Who's left? The Islanders?
Nope.
The Pens?
Nope.
The Sens?
Nope.
The BJs?
Nope.
The Wings?
Nope.
The Sabres?
Nah.
The Habs?
And you didn't mention the Bruins, who I don't think are good. I don't think the Bruins are good either.
I don't think they're good, but for some reason they win.
That's the thing about Boston is like somehow there's been a number of years where I'm like, nah, they're not going to do it. And they always get into the playoffs. Always.
Okay. You could say the same thing about the Penguins, where every time we say they're dead,
that's true.
then they pop up in March, and it's like, oh, they might make the playoffs.
They've been, it's been a few years now since they've made the playoffs.
Yeah, but they're always in it.
They're in it.
Remember last year in February, we're like, they're actually done. It's over. And then they went on like an 8-game winning streak and almost snuck in.
They have one of the greatest players of all time. Yeah. They're never dead till he retires.
Yeah.
Like, until he's actually out of the league, they're not out of it. And then, of course, he'll be replaced by another legend, and the cycle repeats.
I don't think Boston's very good. I could very easily envision a world where Tampa takes that 3rd seed in the Atlantic, and then Boston is very much in that mediocre mix for the wild card.
All right.
And then right now they're in one of the top 3 spots. I can see Tampa overtaking them. I don't know how good Boston is. It's just like, I don't know. They do it every year. I have nothing. But yeah, I look at the East, and Are the Flyers better than like five of the 6 teams in those top 3 spots in each division? No. But I think they're better than every other team I just listed.
You are not incorrect.
They're right there. They're right there.
And before we wrap up today's show, I want to say we appreciate those of you watching on TV. Head over to allphly.com for more of the show.
That happened.
I think now, like, they've kind of figured out what the lines need to be. The Couturier line is what it is, and good, like it.
John Tortorella actually said today that's probably the line out of the 4 he's been least excited about over the last few games.
And that's like, yeah, because 2 of the 3 of the guys on the line don't score. And they play the most out of anyone, so it's kind of hard to be. It's like Farabee, you got to believe is going to score at some point, right?
He had some points over the last few.
He did. And
last night was the Scott Laughton show. So,
yep. Couturier is Couturier. He's doing his thing. It's fine. That third line, I like what I've seen out of Noah Cates since he's been with those guys. They've been they've been getting it going. The fourth line is a good fourth line.
Yeah.
You look at the defense, I don't know, with Emil Andrae in there, despite what Torts has to say to Charlie about him being a top 4 defenseman, the numbers are the numbers. They're pretty freaking good. This looks like a playoff team.
Torts was using him for 20 minutes a night. He's a top 4 defenseman.
It's very much a joke.
Oh,
Charlie.
I know.
I am joking too.
I'm not yelling at you. I'm kind of yelling at Torts through the camera.
Well, that's the thing. If he's got to put him back in, or I'm going to be quite nervous.
Well, he's not going to apparently going to play against Minnesota.
Right.
It's going to be a 2-game scratch. Wouldn't shock me if he's getting the Michkov treatment. 2 games, then they have 3 days in between their next game, gives them a chance to reset, watch tape, talk to Shaw. Then he comes back in maybe for the next game against Detroit.
I'll take it.
He also and maybe just learning to protect himself is a big part of this.
Could be.
But there is a part of me that's like, he got effing rocked by Olivier in the last game. Maybe he's not injured, but if you see his play slipping a little, seems like a decent opportunity to at least be like, all right, shake the cobwebs off.
Yeah.
That's a fair point.
He didn't look healthy when he got back to the bench.
No, he did not.
He looked like a guy who just got hit by one of the toughest players in the league.
And we also talked about, like I mentioned it a couple shows ago, whenever I had my interviews with Brent Flair and I would ask, well, what does Andrae need to work on in terms of his development?
This is a recurring
One thing that Flair kept saying was he needs to do a better job of protecting himself. Like, that could actually be one of the things that they want him to work on, where it's like, hey, dude, we've loved the play, but also if you don't get better at this one thing, it's not going to matter how good you play because you're only going to play 40 games.
You're going to get killed. Yeah. And listen, you have an alumni, Kimmo Timonen. Just bring him in.
Yeah.
Teach him.
Show him.
Kimmo was like 25, 26 before he became Kimmo Timonen. Plenty of time for Andrae.
Mm-hmm.
I see a lot there with him. But you look at this team with him in the lineup, like him and Risto. I looked this up. Again, if the numbers tell me what I like, I use them. 5-on-5, they've played 84 minutes together. No, that's Risto and Andrae. They've played almost 130 minutes together at 5-on-5. 65.6 expected goals for percentage. Highest of any pair on the team with at least 30 minutes. And of all pairs in the NHL with at least 100 minutes together, only Spurgeon and Brodin at 67.97, and I can't say his name. Jordan Spence and somebody else in LA, Jacob Mover. They are the only 2 pairs ahead of what Andrae and Risto are doing in terms of expected goals. Now, obviously, we know Sanheim and York are going to get the toughest minutes.
Right.
Sure.
So it's not apples to apples. They're not a number 1 pair. But they're more than holding their own. They look freaking great together when they're out there.
Need the second pair to be good.
This looks like a playoff team to me. I don't see a team that's like, oh, yeah, they're better than them. I don't know. I think they're one of the 8 best teams in the East.
If they keep this up, they very much are playing structurally, especially at 5-on-5, like a playoff team would.
Mm-hmm.
Need to clean up that penalty kill. Hopefully, the shorthanded goal we saw last night from Scott Laughton is a harbinger of things to come in terms of an improved penalty kill. Power play, it's better than it was last year. We'll just take it.
Yeah. I was encouraged that while Detroit kind of stinks, that's a 25% power play. It was only 1. They were only shorthanded 1 time, which is also good.
That's
Way
good,
to go.
yeah.
Stop taking penalties. But not only did they kill it, they scored themselves, and that's what the team did so well last year. Happy to see.
And the big thing, too, with beating Detroit, they are probably one of the teams that when it gets down to it, they're going to be battling with for that second wildcard spot. right in that spot. I mean, they were one of the teams they were battling with last year for the second wild card spot.
I hate going into overtime with you guys on Friday because I think it's mean. But you brought them up. I just have to ask real quick. What the hell are the Detroit Red Wings? I asked Rachel this earlier.
Yeah, I don't know.
We'll have an interview with Rachel Dory dropping this weekend or Monday or something. But I talked to her about it. Watching them up close last night. What is the Yzer plan?
I was going to say Steve Yzerman might suck.
They have two really good prime age players in Larkin and DeBrincat. They had, I think, 7 straight top 10 picks, and some of those guys are panning out. And then it's like a bunch of dudes in their 30s that are like, what are we doing here?
I don't know.
I do not understand what the hell the Detroit Red Wings are, and it's not a shock to me that they're mediocre.
I mean, the big thing for me, and I think Anthony DeMarco wrote a good story on this morning.
I saw he wrote a story. I haven't read it yet.
And I agree with him. His point, and I think he's basically on the money here, is, they tanked, and they got a lot of top 10 picks. They don't have anybody that really jumps out at you as the guy.
Yeah.
Like the guy on a great team. Like Moritz Seider and Lucas Raymond, real good players. They could play on my team any day. Are either of them the best player on a cup contender? I'm unconvinced.
It seems like they drafted a bunch of dudes who are like what the Flyers already have before the rebuild. Like, nice pieces.
Yeah.
Not the dude.
Textile picks.
The second, third guy? Yeah. But not the guy.
Not the guy.
All right. Let's hit those super chats. All right. 3 super chats today. First one from JH. The vibes in the room are immaculate.
Exactly.
Last night they were celebrating like they won a playoff round.
It was nice.
It was nice.
It's really cool.
Yeah, it was nice
to have. I think it's just important for teams in the doldrums of a season. Yeah. And listen, it's not like they've been to the playoffs a bunch of years in a row and they're like, oh, Thursday night against Detroit, huh? Like, no, you need to play every game because like you haven't been to the playoffs in how freaking long. A lot of these guys have never been to the playoffs.
Yeah, especially after you come off a year when you miss the playoffs by like 2-3 points.
But it's just the nature of humans in an 82-game season to be like, it's December again. We got a long time before April.
I mean,
it's a grind.
It happens to us. I got to believe it happens to them. They're getting hit by like super athletes. I'm just yelling into a microphone. You have to listen to me. Like that's a moment like that. I think it's almost like a team building trip or like the opposite, but the U2 trip that gets canceled for Nashville last year. And then they all rally. Like it's just one of those moments that you go, all right, for a couple of weeks, we're just going to be a little lighter.
You can't discount vibes. I don't care how silly it seems. You cannot discount them. They are important.
It's clear they are important.
And the vibes are good.
It's why, like, the Rangers, a bunch of good players. Vibes are bad. They're bad.
Yeah.
All right. From Gary B.
2 from Gary B.
All right, 2 from Gary B. First one. Hey, Bill, Charlie, Kelly. Love you all. Go Flyers. Happy weekend, Gary. Happy to hear from you. And a second one. Matvei Michkov scores 1 tomorrow, and Catesy lands a goal. Oh, Gary's been hot.
Gary's really letting it ride.
Noah
here.
Cates. I
Noah
mean,
Cates like
goal.
it.
They
Noah
don't have
Cates,
it frequently.
Outside of
he's playing well.
Outside of like the 2 actual like goalie and net goals that Laughton scored, Noah Cates wiring one off the crossbar was like their best chance of the game last night. So he's been close. That line's been better. So maybe.
I like Gary.
That line, giving you some numbers here, that line in 81 minutes together, expected goals for percentage of 70.4%.
That's a lot.
That line's been killing it.
Seems good.
All right. Now, that is all the time we have for you on PHLY Flyers, presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app and use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. And we have a bunch of stuff coming up that's not ordinary either. It starts this coming Wednesday with our watch along. It's Detroit again.
Yeah.
We're going to bet some Scott Laughton anytime goals. They just played Detroit, so maybe there's a little bad blood. Hopefully we see a little physicality. That wouldn't be too bad. Wouldn't mind that. And then Monday, the 23rd, Festivus at Xfinity, the pub at Xfinity. Going to be a great time. Live show. Fun for all, giveaways. You know how we do Festivus. It's a great yearly event. And finally, the 28th, the Saturday after Christmas.
Watch party.
It's a watch party at Heroes in Glen Mills. Come on out to that. See all of our events on the events calendar at allphly.com. All right, that's really it. Yeah. My name is Bill Matz. That's Charlie O'Connor. That's Kelly Hinkle. Until tomorrow, let's go Flyers.
We all silly like the mayor.